Some would call this just simply a summary verse at the end of the chapter. I think it's more than that. I think it's rich with hints of God's providence and goodness and blessing in their lives. Here's what it says, verse 22. So Naomi returned from Moab, accompanied by Ruth the Moabite, her daughter-in-law, arriving in Bethlehem as the barley harvest was beginning. A simple sentence, but I'm convinced that God led the author to put it in there because, oh my, it's more than just a simple summary of what's happened. It's hinting at blessing. And so look at with me. What is it saying about Naomi's return? It's saying three things, in fact, and I think all three of them hint to three different blessings, unseen blessings. Let's move this up. Unseen blessings. What's the first one? Accompanied by Ruth. Here's Naomi returning from Moab. What's the first blessing? She's got someone with her. A daughter-in-law, a widowed daughter-in-law named Ruth. Is Ruth a blessing? Oh my. She is more than a daughter-in-law. She will prove to be a friend, a confidant. The ladies later in the book tell Naomi, do you realize what you've got in Ruth? They say this, Ruth is better than 7 sons. And it's true, she is. She is a blessing. And the type of blessing that I'm going to call it is sometimes we have a blessing or blessings right under our nose, and we don't recognize them. Here, Naomi's like, God has just destroyed my life, and I am so bitter. There's nothing good, nothing. And you want to say, oh, wait, hold on, there is one thing good. What about Ruth? She doesn't see it. And sometimes we are like Naomi. We have blessings that God has given us, but we're just blind to them. They're right under our nose, and yet we don't see them. Isn't that true? Sometimes we're just like, my whole life is falling apart, and yet there are people who are a blessing from God in our lives. And there are opportunities and there are provisions, that there's health or whatever it may be, and we need to have our eyes opened to say, Lord, I tend to be so pessimistic that I miss the goodness of your providence right under my nose. Would you open my eyes again? You know, one of the things would be the cross of Jesus Christ. You know, a person of faith recognizes if everything is bad and I have salvation in Christ, I am worthy, or I should be dancing and rejoicing what I've got. Don't get to a place where you can't see the goodness of God in your life because it's right under your nose. Let him open your eyes to recognize it anew. So there's one. How about this next phrase? Arriving in Bethlehem. When we see that, we're like, Bethlehem. To them, Bethlehem was just some no-name, rural little podunk town. To us, we're like, let's sing Christmas carols. Bethlehem, the glorious birthplace of Jesus. And you're right, it is more than that, though. It's also the birthplace of King David, the greatest king in Israel's history. And the fact that they're going there and there's going to become the birthplace of David and Jesus, that's not coincidental. In fact, God is lining it up so that these ladies, Naomi and Ruth, are both going to be ancestors of both David and Jesus. God says, you don't realize it now, but I've got an unseen blessing in the works. I'm lining it all up, and your family line is part of my salvation strategy, God would say. You don't realize it, but as you raise your kids and they raise their kids, it's all part of my plan to bring the glory days to the nation Israel and to bring salvation to planet Earth. You're at the heart of my strategy. Oh my, are you fortunate? And you know, God doesn't waste any lives. He wants you to be an integral part of his salvation strategy. And sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes the way God uses our life is only to be seen after we're gone. And from the perspective of heaven, he'll show us, do you see how your kid or your grandkid or that kid you worked with in Awana clubs or whatever, and all of a sudden we will discover, maybe my life wasn't as meaningless as I thought. The Lord was using me in ways. He had blessings in the works, and it was going to be long years down the road before it would be seen. But as people of faith, we are to believe that, God, I know you're using me. I've made myself available. I'm seeking to walk in obedience, and I trust that someday you'll be able to show me all the glorious ways my life counted in beautiful expressions of kingdom advance. Do you believe that? People of faith know that their seemingly meaningless life is in fact being used by God to bring great impact, because they're following him and obeying him and making themselves available. So there's two things that we see hinted at in this verse. Blessings that are right under our nose, sometimes we miss, and blessings that are in the works. It's going to take years to see it worked out, but God's up to something. Here's one more. As the barley harvest was beginning. So, is this coincidental? You know, they just happened to show up as the barley harvest was beginning. No, we're going to see as the book continues, this is the providence of God. God has brought them there just when the barley harvest is beginning. And you say, what's the big deal with the barley harvest? Oh, you wait and see. The barley harvest is how God's going to provide a job, and how God's going to provide food, and how God's going to provide a husband and the future. Folks, this barley harvest hints at the fact that God's great blessing is right around the corner, though they can't see it yet. It's, just wait, just you wait. And that's how it is with us. Sometimes there is, just weeks, just a month away, there is a rich blessing of God awaiting, a demonstration of his provision, his providence. It's going to be glorious. And people of faith have a optimistic anticipation of the future. Not naive. We say, hey, it's going to be hard. I know I've got some tough days ahead, but the Lord has been good in my past, and he will be good in the days ahead. And I can't wait to see how his love will be expressed this coming week, this coming month, this coming year, this coming decade. Folks, God has providential blessing around the corner for me and for you. And sometimes when you're in a dark place, you can't see any of these. But Ruth did. And we can too. To say, this is really bad, really bad. But God, I believe that there are blessings of yours right under my nose. Make me aware of them. And I believe that there are blessings in the works where you're strategically using my life in ways that someday I'll see and appreciate. And I believe that there are things right around the corner, and I anticipate your goodness helping me through in the days ahead. Folks, Ruth demonstrated just this inspiring, relentless confidence in God, even in the darkest times. Your ways are higher than our ways, God. I trust you.